Well, there we go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to a wonderful Monday night. We appreciate each and every one of you for taking time out of your schedule, whatever it might be, whether it's busy, whether it's slacking, whether it's pretending that you're awake and you're not. Whatever might be the case, I want to appreciate you for taking time to join us. And you'll notice we decided, you know what, we're tired of being unbalanced. Well, we're all unbalanced, but that's another story. We're tired of the windows being unbalanced here, where there's three, right? You have like the two and then the one. So we're like, you know what? Tonight we're gonna have four. We're gonna have four, and we're not gonna let John join us because, well, it's John. It's just we're not gonna let that happen. That's kind of the way that it goes. But anyway, to introduce you guys to who I have with us, obviously you know Cubbie. Don't really need to introduce him any further than what we got there. But was it 2 months ago, maybe now? We had this one gentleman to come to join us. He hails all the way from Georgia. When he's not stuck in Georgia, he's stuck in Jersey. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he is with us tonight because, of course, we are going to be talking about games. And we can't do that without knowing the host of many of our game seminars. That is Mr. Jacobsen.
Hello.
There we
Thank
go.
you very much.
And then the other gentleman that we have up in the corner, you may know him, and if you don't, shame on you. But of course, I am talking about Todd Moffre, hailing from New York, and what is it? Albany, technically?
Schenectady, Albany,
Okay.
Capital District.
He showed me where his house was on Google Maps, which was a very scary thing to do with me. But he did that one day when we were hanging out for the Mike Walter MC workshop. And I was like, okay, still, I think I've driven past it like 4 times now. But he is joining us tonight because this gentleman not only has been a part of Jake's seminar every year, he is also very well known for his own games. He has a Facebook group called called Party Games with Todd. And then, of course, there is the website that he has also, partygameswithtodd.com. So I'm talking about Mr. Todd Moffre. So welcome, gentlemen. Welcome.
It's good to be here.
Get your pens and paper out, man. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. Get it out. Get it out. These guys are geniuses.
We got ours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot to live up to, Cubbie.
It's not. I've seen you before. We've had you on before, Jake. Jacobs. I'm sorry. He called you Jake first. I'm sorry, Daryl.
It is Jake. It is. We got to stop putting Daryl there.
Yeah.
But so to fill everybody in, right? This came about. We're in holiday season. So some of you, this is going to be one of those things you're going to watch this show. You'll never do these ever an event, but maybe you'll do it with your friends and your family and the holiday parties you host at your house, right? Looking for something fun to do. Others of you are doing corporate events. And if you've really done many corporate events, you recognize what ends up happening. Everybody has a dinner, and then you have a few select people that are drunk who might dance, and everybody else kind of wonders what's going on. And they're waiting until they give away the TVs, and then they're going to leave, right? So this gives you an opportunity to kind of up your game, if you will, to be able to prove that you are more than just a button pusher, that these companies who, no matter how well of a DJ you are, how well you DJ, they need something more. And this is where that something more comes into play. So tonight we're going to be talking about games. Exactly as Cubbie said, I'd grab that pen and paper. I'd get ready to jot things down. As a reminder, if you have a question about a game, please drop it into the chat. However, the only chat that I am watching tonight is the one that is on YouTube at the Disc Jockey News channel. If you're watching on one of the other YouTube channels that we're streaming to, or to any of the Facebook pages, I'm not watching it. I won't get your question. I won't be able to pass it on to these gentlemen. So make sure you're watching over there, and we'd be more than happy to have you a part of that question and to throw that in. So tonight's going to be somewhat of a round robin. We're gonna ask these gentlemen to give us their game, tell us about supplies that we might need, give us the ins and outs, and if there's any questions that pop in our head as they're talking, we're gonna grill them and hopefully come up with some really cool games. So, which one of you would like to go first?
Start with Jake.
I was going to say, Todd, you've never done this before, really.
That's all right.
Give ping pong back. You do one, I'll do one. We'll kind of do it like that. I'd like to hear what you have to say, Todd.
All right. Well, when you first get to an event, nobody's really sure what to do. I start out with some icebreakers, and two of my favorite is just a standalone game where I will do trivia questions. And this year's favorite trivia game is Who's in Your Family? And it's basically something just along the lines of, here we go, I'll ask you guys a question, and you could tell me who the answer is. In your family, who is my father's sister's daughter? Who is that? My father's sister's daughter.
Cousin?
That's your cousin. There you go. And I have a whole list of 15 different questions just like that I'll ask. And it gets people thinking, and it's just it's a quick fire game. And then also sometimes I like to play table versus table. So I'll break out the Family Feud cards, and you can get those online. I have an associates link on my website where you can just order those. And we'll put 2 tables up. I'll get 2 volunteers, or I'll select 2 volunteers. And we'll just ask them the question, and whoever gets, out of 100 answers, the top answers are whoever gets the top answer, that table will win. And I'll throw them out a tchotchke, like Mardi Gras beads or something like that. So those are my icebreakers. Jake, what do you got?
Wait, I got questions about that real quick here. First off, I'm glad Jake didn't chime in because I was afraid he was going to answer the question my wife.
Yeah.
Now that he's in Georgia.
That is,
Anyway,
yeah.
Anyway,
Could be his cousin. I don't know.
I'm kidding. I know you don't go that way, but with that being said,
not from Georgia,
the other
so I can
question that I
laugh.
had is, do you, Todd, with that game, do you? Because I could also see potentially setting this up where you're using some video screens and everything else. Do you feel that any of that comes into play, or is it really just more MC work for Matt?
It all depends on your client and what they want to bring in. I have some events that have video screens with them that the client brings in. I don't typically provide video screens, although I'll do projectors and a screen, and we can do a game show style like that. Other times, I may just take a paper and walk it around and hand it on each table and say, hey, I'm going to pick it up in 10 minutes. As a table answer, please do not use your phones or any sort of electronic device to assist you in the answers. So there's a lot of different ways you can present and play the game. You can put it on screen, you can ask it game show style, or you can walk around and hand out paper and collect it while they're, just talking.
Thanks. Nice. All right, Jake, what do you got for us?
All right. If I could do 2 quick ones.
Sure.
Well, the reason I want to do 2 is because they're both with playing cards. So one of the great icebreakers, what I'll do, it gives you an opportunity to meet guests and get to know them a little bit, is I will walk around and give everybody a playing card. As they're coming in, you give them, just open a deck, take the jokers out. And as you meet different people, just tell them to hold on to that card. We're going to use it later. And, once everybody's seated and you have them ready to go, this is something you could do if you want to do a table release. So you have the tables put their best hand together, like as a table. So if you got 8 people at a table, take try to make your best poker hand, with 5 cards. Use the best 5 cards to make a poker hand. And then you have cards, with however many tables there are. So you have like little sheets of paper. Whoever has the best hand, they get to be the first ones up to the buffet. Whoever's the second best hand, you got to know your poker hands, but that's one way to do it. Also, what you can do is if playing cards are really cheap. You can get them at the dollar store. Sometimes you can even get 2 for $1. What I'll do is I'll take a whole bunch of playing cards and I will put them face down on a table. I'll tell everybody not to touch them, but they're basically all face down, kind of like in the middle of the table. And then what we'll do is you're going to have a runner for each table. So I will say whoever can give me, say, the king of spades first, whatever table can give me the king of spades first, and now they come running. So they kind of jump and they run and they get in a line. So whoever finds the king of spades, whatever person gets that to me first, that table's now going to eat first. Everybody goes and sits again. That table's already number 1. Then you just do the next thing. Say the 3 of hearts. Whatever table gets me the 3 of hearts first, they're not allowed to look at the cards. They can only look at them when I say that. And if you have like 10 or 12 tables, it's really fun. It goes way faster than it sounds like it does. It happens in like 3 minutes. But now you have your new order of the tables just based on this, and they have a lot of fun doing it. It's a nice little way to release the banquet, to the buffet.
I like that. So if I'm understanding correctly, like you have everybody's, you go back to back to back to back to back, or do you like let the group that's going to go and it's okay, it's time for us to get ready for the next one, and now I'm looking for the 3 of
Exactly.
hearts.
So the first team goes, they get a sheet of paper with a 1 on. They get a like card that says 1 on it.
Okay.
They take that. Now they're number 1. So they're going to go to the buffet first. When I ask for the 3 of hearts, they get the 2. They get a card with a 2 on it. Now they take it back to their table. And then when I call them later, I said, okay, number 1, they had the first card. They get to go first, which is kind of funny because sometimes it completely reorders the room. So, now the president is eating 8th instead of first. It's kind of fun that way.
Is it though? Who's got your
usually
That
check?
was the one year you worked for that company and never again.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
It's a chance I'm willing to take. Most presidents don't mind it.
No.
Just stack
I
the
can't
deck.
say about
You asked for the Joker, and his is the only table that has it. There you go.
I
That's
know
a good way to
casinos.
suck up to the president.
Yeah, I know casinos give away cards that have already been used and poker decks. So if you live near a casino, go out to your regular casino and get them for free. But if you don't, you can go to like the dollar store and get those cheap ones, which are awesome.
Yeah, that's what I use. I mean, you can order them in bulk. They're really cheap. You don't have to get really good cards. They're just crap. You only use them that one time.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Two
All right,
great
Todd.
ideas.
What do you got next, Todd?
All right, so for one of my all-time favorite games, matter of fact, I got it from Jake's seminar one year down at DJX, and all you need is a quarter. Our buddy Mike Alivres showed it out, and it's called Heads or Tails.
I showed him that game, Todd, and
There you
Robbie
go.
Clinton showed me.
And Robbie, and I reached out to Robbie, and he was like, "No, that wasn't me. That was somebody else." So, but all you do is you take the quarter, you have everybody stand up, and they choose either heads, they put their hands on their heads, or tails, they put their hands on their tails. You flip it, you put it down, and then you call it. If it's heads, whoever has their hands on their heads goes on to the next round. You go down to your like 5, 3, 4, 2 people left, and you just have to make sure when you get down to the fewest number of people that at least one person is opposite of what the other person is. And I usually tell people I'm going to give them an opportunity to win up to $5,000 with that game, and winner gets a $1 lottery ticket value up to $5,000 you can win. So I don't tell them it's a lottery ticket until after the fact. I tell them it's up to 5,000, and I tell them, their company has really gone all out and splurged for prizes today. And that usually gets maximum participation. And the beautiful thing about that is you don't have to leave your table. You can do it right at the table. So what I usually do with that game is once we get everybody in the room, get them ready to go up for their meals, I do a little icebreaker like that, and I'll play that game as well. And then another one that I got from Mark Berneisen, who actually won the game competition with this one a few years back at DJX, was pictures on your phone, because everybody has pictures on the phone. And basically what you do with that is you start out with, maybe 1 or 2 common pictures that everybody's going to have on their home screen as their background. If you have a picture of your pet, I have my wife and one of our dogs on there, so I would be instantly out at that one. And then you throw a couple of rare things in there, if you have a picture of a NASCAR driver, or if you have a picture of a music album, of a music group, and you just have a whole bunch of different things. And the same one with that is they do it right at their table. They stand up, and if, they have that, they sit down. And then the tiebreaker when we get down near the end is the person who has the most photos on their phone. And you can have nowadays 10,000, 15, 25, 30,000 pictures on your phone. It's ridiculous. So those are 2 more that we do where we're not really singling everybody out until the end. But the beautiful thing is they don't have to leave their tables. So they have that security right there to participate and not really be embarrassed.
And if I could push on that, because I play that cell phone game all the time, and the things like some of the stuff you asked for, like Todd said, um, great things to ask to eliminate people in fun ways. If you have the background that came with the phone, you're out. If you change the color, just change the color of the background, you're out. If you just have a design or some triangles or squares or some just a design in the background, you're out. If you have a picture of your spouse or your significant other, you have a picture of anything outside. There's just so many different things you can do it. But like Todd said, if you throw a couple weird ones in, people stay in the game longer. And one of the things I love to save that gets people, a lot of people near the end, is I say a picture of you. So many people have themselves on their own screen, on their own phone backgrounds. So when you say, I know a lot of you thinking you're really smart right now because I haven't said this one, but now I'm going to lose a lot of you right here. If you have a picture of you on the background, so
And don't forget about the flip phone that doesn't have any background pictures.
yeah,
So
then
you
they're
can't.
just out. If you don't
They're
have
just
a
out.
smartphone, you're just out. That's that's actually a fun way if you play that game right. It's a huge hit, and everybody's got most 99% of people have a smartphone, so it's a fun one. Um, here's another going kind of along with my card game. It's with puzzles. You find those puzzles, small puzzles, uh, 25 pieces, 50-piece puzzles. And again, when people walk in the room, you give them a puzzle piece. And then if you want to give out, say, a bunch of candy or something as a prize, the first team, or you can give them a couple puzzle pieces as long as they're on the same puzzle. You tell everybody, it's a great team building game, but you tell everybody that whoever finds, the rest of their team and puts their puzzle together and completes it wins the prize. So there's a lot of teamwork in there because you've got to find people. You could tell them that there's 3 puzzles or there's 4 puzzles, and they have to find people with that puzzle and then put the thing together. It actually happens a lot faster than you think. Well, 5, 6 minutes, it's done. You'll have somebody with a completed puzzle. The other thing that's a lot of fun to do is if you do this at a dollar store, Five Below, get a 25-piece or a 50-piece puzzle unopened, cellophane still on it, sitting at their tables. And when you tell them to, as a table, they have to unwrap the box and put the puzzle together. And the first table that can put that puzzle together to completion, and this is a thing, you can either give them a prize, a table prize, or you can let them go, to the buffet first, what has the teams complete their puzzles. But that's another fun thing to do, and it really doesn't cost a whole lot. And a lot of times you can reuse those puzzles.
Can we go back to the photo round or the photo where you guys play the photos? Does anybody have a
Yeah.
list of all those, of some of those great questions for some of our viewers out there, like myself?
You know how they have the Kentucky Fried Chicken vault with the recipe? I keep the list in that vault with the Kentucky. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, I don't actually. I would be honest with you, Cubby. I don't. It's kind of like in my head, but I would be happy to like give between me and Todd. I bet we could put together an epic list.
Yeah,
Jake, let me look. I might have a list already made up either in the file section of the Facebook group or out on the website. I
awesome.
remember talking with Mark and him sending me a whole bunch of stuff and then me making up more stuff. So I may already have one done. I'm just not 100% sure because I have so much stuff out there.
We could.
I just think, like I said, some of our viewers who are kind of getting into these are great. I mean, just phenomenal ideas. And I've never heard of the phone one before. So I think if we could get some people to feed off that and get some of your ideas, maybe 20 of them, because I don't think you need a bunch or, when as you're going down, if somebody could maybe give us a list and we could put it up somewhere and, as a recap of our show or in the notes or something, or
Got to give
link
Mark
to,
Berniac a little love from upstate New York. He
of
won
course.
Game of the Year in 2016 at DJX in the
Yeah.
DJ competition with that game, and it's killer, man. It's one of the better games you're going to play.
We definitely want to credit whoever, the person, but like I said, I think it'd be a great idea if we could come up with a list of, a
Yeah.
couple of them that just and then they can feed off that. Some of these, sometimes we just need to kickstart something and they can go on their own. I know I'm going to use it this season. I got a couple coming up. So, and in January. So I'm kind of slow and stuff. So if you give me some ideas, that'd be great.
Dot. It is not in the group. It is
All
not in the
right.
group. I decided
I'm
to quick
looking on the
quick search.
website
So,
right now.
but there's a
But
couple
we
other
get
here that I'm like, I might need to come back to these because I forgot about some that were in the that were in this group here. By the way, the
yes.
group that if you didn't catch it earlier, if you tuned in just late or something like that, again, Todd's got a group on Facebook. Like you don't need to go out and run and do it now, but remember this party games with Todd. It's pretty easy, right?
It's on
Check
the
out the group.
website.
Yeah,
It's
You
it's
got
not
the
can't
gonna.
white
see
It's
that,
just
screen.
Todd.
it's
Yeah.
it's all blurry. But that's where you want to go. Like that's where you want to check out. Request to be a part of the group, and there's a lot of different game ideas that are there, as well as different ones that get shared and discussed and talked about. So, all right, who was next? I forget where we left off because it was
Todd,
kind
I
of
think it's
bouncing.
your turn.
All right, so I'm going to a couple of food games. Everybody
Yes.
should know this one, and you can get this at any dollar store. Walk in if you forget about something. Walk into the dollar store, grab a package of cookies, and walk on out. And you can
Pay
play.
for it.
I call
Pay
it
for it
as the
first.
cookie crumbles. It's also called Face the Cookie, and it's so well known. If you don't know about it, this should be one of the main games in your toolbox because kids love to play it, but adults love to play it as well. You take the cookie, you put it on your forehead, put your hands behind your back, and then they have to maneuver the cookie from their forehead and catch it into their mouth. It's a game of patience and just finesse. It really is, and it's a big hit with almost every single crowd that I've used it on, and they love it. The other one is something that I just kind of thought up later on last year. I was having a New Year's Eve party get together at my house, and I was walking around BJ's Wholesale Club, and I saw Fruit by the Foot, and I call it, Big Mouth or whatever you want to call it. The name of the game isn't as important as how you present it. And I get fruit roll-ups, which are 3 feet long. You unravel them, and then one end is folded over. So I have the contestants take that end and hold it in their mouth, let it go, hands behind your back, and then I say go. Then that whoever's the first person to chew that 3 foot roll of fruit into their mouth is the winner. I got a demo of that we did over New Year's Eve last year in the Facebook group. You can check that out. That one is a blast. I did it at a game party mitzvah. We had 25 boys for 4 hours. We played nothing but games with them. We did that one there. That was one of the few games where a lot of the adults came over and had fun with that game as well. So
When the adults
those are my
play,
two.
they win a date with Todd, whoever wins.
Yeah.
Can't blame them. That's why more people play.
That's awesome.
I've seen that one done before. I went to a youth group event one time and they started out the night doing that. And I was like watching it. I was kind of wondering what was going to happen here. And they got it ready to go. And also they went and I was like, oh, and some of the like there was some of the leaders that were doing it and they were like really slow at doing it. Man, what this one like there was a guy and a girl about maybe 16, 17, and they just like it was gone in like seconds. It just they knew what exactly to do. So but it was a lot of fun just watching it because then they also had to like what they did or what they what made it do was not just get it into the mouth, but actually like chew and swallow it. So
Yep.
it wasn't just get it in there, which is difficult enough, but then if you do it too fast, then you can't like swallow. You got to like really get it to work out.
Has anybody ever done the Lady and the Tramp one where they put somebody on both sides of the 3 foot roll up and meet in the middle and say, look, pick your teams. I don't care who you are. Guy, girl usually works best, but if you do guy, I don't care, or girl, girl, and then have them meet in the middle. And then they have to have you ever done that before? Like a little twist
No,
on that game?
no,
I have not thought to do that.
no.
I'm
Maybe at a Jack and Jill. That would be good at a Jack and Jill party.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've done a couple games like that with people, and just said it could be a guy, girl, girl, but it works best as guy, girl. But I don't care how you pair up, just pair up, and they, yeah, I've done that with Twizzlers. Not 3 feet of candy though. That's awesome.
It's so cheap. I didn't even write this. I'd written down a bunch of games, and that game made me think of another game where you give everybody oven mitts, and you get a lineup of people with oven mitts, and then you give them a pack of gum,
Oh,
like a bubble gum. And with the wearing oven mitts, they have to open the gum and blow a bubble. And the first person who can unwrap the gum with oven mitts on and get the gum in their mouth, chew it enough, and blow a bubble, the first person who can do that wins. So it's another cruel, fun thing you can do to people.
I've done
Jake,
that
we
with Hershey Kisses and then as I pass Hershey Kisses to them, I kind of squeeze the wrapper so it's on there really good,
Yeah.
because they're trying to unravel the Hershey Kiss with the oven mitt, which is really hard, and feed it to the person behind it, and then pass the
That'll
oven mitt.
work
So it's
too.
more
Yeah,
of a
that's good.
relay. Yeah.
Love it.
we did the bubblegum game. Actually, I was at an event and I was a contestant for that game, and they just gave us a piece of bazooka, which you guys know is solid as a rock.
And hard.
So you had to unravel it, put it in your mouth, and the first person to blow a bubble was the winner. And let me tell you, that was a tough one. That was
By the way, if you want to make that game even more cruel, make them wear a blindfold.
Oh,
Blindfolds, oven mitts, and a piece of gum, and they'll sit there farting around with that for a while. And
It's almost one of those where you get it started with you like, okay, we're gonna start this game, and now we're gonna come over here. We're gonna do another game while we wait, and we'll just keep checking back on these guys.
I've done that. Sometimes some of the games I'll play during my seminar in DJX, um, I'll do a game that takes a few minutes with a group. So while the one group is doing the game and getting ready to present their material, I'll play other games while I'm doing it. You could definitely do stuff like that. There's nothing wrong.
Nice. All right, Jake, give us another one.
Okay, so you mentioned Micah Leavers before. This is another game. Doesn't require any props, which I love propless games. It's called Sit Down If. So everybody stands up and you start asking questions. You have to make sure, you have an honest group. Don't play this with kids. It'll never work. But if you have a group of adults and, you're, talking to them, I need you to be honest with me. And now you start to ask them questions, and it's simply sit down if, and then there's a statement behind it. So sit down if you still have an active AOL account. Sit down if you've eaten McDonald's this week. Sit down if you have boxer briefs on under your pants. Sit down if, and you just ask a bunch of crazy questions. And, sit down if you've never been to Europe. You can ask tons of different questions like this. And you can even, if you want to have a specific winner, you can kind of maneuver it that way because the questions are asking. But you'll be amazed that when you get to the end of the game, you'll be absolutely amazed at how how little people have lives sometimes. You're asking questions, sit down if you've killed a bug this week. If it's in the summertime, sit down if you've never gotten a sunburn. There's so many things you can ask, and there's so many crazy questions. There's nothing wrong or right. But at the end, you have one person, people just cannot believe that they're still standing.
that's
Nice.
I like that one.
No props.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Because I do like to use games that I can use the props multiple over again, like a Hershey Kiss game or
Yeah.
that's why I do the oven mitts and the Hershey mitt kisses, because then I do another kiss. It was called the kissing game, which I'm
Yeah.
sure you guys have seen done before.
And it's great.
So with that in mind, Jake, did you have another one?
Yeah. This one I made up, made this one up about 10 years ago. And I made it up the night before my seminar at DJX. I actually, we're talking about Mike. I called Mike on the phone. I said, I just came up with this game. Tell me what you think of it. And I literally explained to him on the phone. He's like, that's amazing. You got to play that tomorrow. I call it the handshake game. So what you do is you just get a whole bunch of people on the dance floor. You have to have an even number. And then you tell everyone that, pair up. So that I don't tell them to come out in teams. I just tell everybody to come out to the dance floor, make sure it's an even number, and then just have them all pair up. So once you have everybody together, you tell them I'm going to give you 3 minutes to come up with the most fun, most crazy handshake that you can. You have 20 seconds to demonstrate the handshake. So this is one of those things where you can play another game. You send them away. And it doesn't matter how many, and you tell the audience that they're going to be the ones who are going to judge the contest. So everybody goes away for 3 minutes. They come back, and you have them each come out and demonstrate their handshake. And it's some of the stuff you're going to see. Some of it sucks. Some of it's outrageous. So when you get to the end, after you've had the last team demonstrate it, now you're going to go, you're going to ask for audience applause by the ones they think are the best. So you go, over each team and get the applause. Find the top two. There's always a top two. And you bring them out and you make them switch partners and go for another 90 seconds and come up with another handshake thing. So after 90 seconds, you bring them out, they demonstrate it, you do the audience applause again, and there you have your winner.
That's
I like that
awesome.
one. Yeah, another no prop game. Love it.
No props.
So speaking of which, real quick here. So Cubbie, you had asked about the list. Todd
Yeah.
was doing some research while we were chatting, and he came up with not came up with, but found the list. So
Oh,
I'm going to
good.
throw it into the chat for everybody here over at YouTube. Again, if you're not on the YouTube channel, I don't like you. But make sure you check it out. Like, that's the link, and that's going to go to a bunch of these no prop games. Some of the ones that we're going to be talking about tonight are on that site. But the pictures on your phone, that's there. It's like the third one down in the very first column. So there's a list there. It goes to a PDF, and yeah, I mean, this is like, you talked about 20. There's like 80 in this on this list. I think there's quite a few. So there's a lot of different things there that you could use to kind of run through and make people sit.
Nice. Thanks, Todd.
Got it. So, Keb, you were talking about having props that you can use multiple times for games, and I'm really big on that. And actually, a couple party cups are a must. I have a box of, I think, 4 different colors with 30 cups in each thing, and I use those for multiple games. And another thing I use for multiple games are ping pong paddles and ping pong balls, because there are so many different games that you can do just from a simple take a ball, put a ball on a ping pong paddle, and have the person hold it. You have 7, 8, 10 contestants who can hold it for the longest, or you can give it a time limit, give them 15 seconds, and then after 15 seconds, stop, hand them a second ball. They have to put the ball on, and now they have to hold 2 ping pong balls. And then the person who holds that the longest, they're the winner. Then you take them, you team them up, and just a very simple hit it back and forth to each other. Or a single person, remember the old paddle with the rubber band and the rubber ball? Well, you just do it with a ping pong paddle and a ping pong ball, and they just sit there and bounce it. And whoever can bounce it for the longest is the winner. I do another one called batter up, where I team them up, or they're up in pairs. One person has a party cup and a ping pong ball, and the other person has the paddle. And then I have 4 cones that represent first base, second base, third base, and a home run. And then the pitcher is also the catcher at the same time. He pitches the ball underhand to the person with the paddle, who's the batter. That person has to tap the ball back, and then they have to catch it in the cup without it falling out and without using their hands. If they get it the first time, they step back to second base. If they don't get it, they stay on the base until they make that catch. So that was another one. And then, there's a lot of other games that you can just play with a ping pong ball and a ping pong paddle, and then you add a party cup into it, and there's, boom. I did one at a mitzvah that I'm going to be posting pretty soon on the on Facebook group, that Super Flip Cup, where we had a 6-foot table. We have 4 contestants, 2 on each side, and we gave them each 10 party cups, different one of each color. And then the first person to flip all 10, they were our winner. Party cups are great, because party cups, you can also do the stack where you have 15, 20 cups, and one is a different color, and they have to take from the bottom and replace it to the top. And the first one to go through that entire stack is the winner as well. And then flip them over and you make the pyramid, and boom, drop the pyramid down. So those are just a couple of different games with party cups and with ping pong balls and ping pong paddles that you can reuse for different games and get different results.
I want to pause for a second here, because as I'm talking and as I'm hearing a lot of these, and by the way, like, this has been gold tonight. It really has. Like, because I think that's one of the things that we don't want to do the same games that everybody's seen a thousand times, right? And I think that's one of the things that's important to pick up is a lot of these ideas these gentlemen are talking about that they do a lot or have used a lot. That doesn't mean that your clients have seen them a lot, right? So that's I think the thing that might be a little bit different, right? Because these are some of these games, as Jake mentioned, like the one he thought of the night before debuting it at DJX, right? Like that kind of thing happens. But what I want to kind of pause for just a second here is and ask. I know both of you are somewhat known for your interactivity, and maybe that helps some. But for some of us who maybe get some corporate parties, how do you broach that subject? How do you, for lack of better terms, kind of talk through with your client to kind of interest them, for lack of better terms, into doing some of these games? One of the biggest things that I've run into is they reach out to me, they want a DJ. I've talked to them about doing games and they're like, no, we want music. And then I get there and I'm like, we really needed the games to get through tonight. Like it died. And yet I have that problem. So what are some things that you've done, or what are some tips that you can give to our listeners that kind of helps broach that subject in a right way, or goes about it for somebody a client who maybe isn't thinking in that vein when they first reach out?
You want to answer, Todd, or you want me to?
Why don't you kick it off? Because I think I have a totally different answer than you have.
Well, luckily, a lot of people, I'm kind of known for being interactive, so that has helped me. But that's not the only phone call I get. I get phone calls from people who have no idea who I am or what I do. But I will tell them, hey, by the way, I'm an expert at game playing and team building. If you want to do something different, it's completely up to you. But if you would like to not, do something beyond music, I'd be happy to play some games with your company. And you can, you might just want to do one or two games and see if you like them, or you don't have to do anything at all. And if you present it, they'll usually say, well, can you explain, one of the games you'd play? So right there, I might explain the cell phone game, or something that I think would go well with that particular company. Depending on who's calling you, you hopefully you vetted them a little bit, found out how many people are going to be there, what the company is, that type of thing. But if you can explain a really fun game like the cell phone game, a lot of times they'll be on the phone saying, "Oh, that sounds really fun." And the beautiful thing is, like, I have a party coming up this Saturday. Uh, they wanted me to play some games last year, and I did. I played games, I'd say, for about a half hour. They told me they don't want too many games, maybe like a half hour worth. This year, they want to almost get rid of all the dancing and have me do games all night. So the people found that the games were way more fun than the dancing, and the interaction with each other and running around like idiots made them really happy. And that happens a lot. And we call those people repeat clients because they keep coming back. The only stressful thing is, and I will tell you and others, is I kind of keep a list of the games I play with different companies that I know I'm going to be playing games with. So I will, at the end, I'll write down a list, and I have my notes on my contract software, and I'll put what games I played so that if they rebook me the following year, I'm not rehashing the same games, and I'll come up with some different stuff. But I don't know what you do, Todd, but that's generally how I go about it.
So when I first started doing games was so long ago. I've always done games when I started way back when with school dances. We had very few group dances back then like we have now. And back then, 80s, early 90s, they loved to do the group dances because they were new and they were exciting and things like that. And I would always throw a trivia question or two out there just to throw it out. So when I started doing my adult parties and my corporates and my fire departments, I incorporated the trivia questions in right away. And then how I present it to them is, hey, if you want during cocktail hour, I can walk around, and I use the deck of card games as well, a few different games, but I'll go out and I'll play 21 with them, or we'll play a modified version of Texas Hold with them at the table, and hand out the party beads or hand out lottery tickets. And then I'll move into dinner time, and a lot of people, especially with my volunteer fire departments, because they have a lot of guests from other departments and other places that may not really know a lot of people there, is where I'll go and I'll explain to them, and during dinner, we'll toss out some trivia questions. Or if you want us to, we can do table versus table for Family Feud. And I think because I'm saying things that they recognize, they're like, oh, Family Feud might be a fun thing to play. I know what Family Feud is, where I try to stay away from the games they don't know about in the presentation of the games that I'm going to do. And once they start having fun with the trivia questions, the doors are pretty much open for me to play whatever I want within reason. This year, I'm going to incorporate what's called the Roomba of Doom. And this we played at DJX at their closing party. So if you're familiar with BattleBots, I actually got this idea from a youth group page, and they had a Roomba and they had a couple of steak knives tied to it. And that's what they were using. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I want to do that. So what I did is I got myself a Roomba. I bought it off a marketplace. I got a brand new battery. It cost me $60 all day long. And I hot glued T-pins to it. So now my Roomba has a whole bunch of pins sticking out of the top of it. I built a 5x5 little wooden arena. It's about a foot high. And I do 10 contestants at a time. Each contestant blows up a balloon, just a small, little bit bigger than a softball. And they write their name on it. We throw the balloon in the arena, and then we let the Roomba loose, and last balloon standing wins. I told them about that, and that sealed the deal for me. She said, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Their party is from noon to 4. It's at a bowling alley. She said, we have a couple of lanes, and then we have you in the other room playing games. I said, well, what about dancing? Is people going to dance? She goes, probably not. We're not going to plan for dancing. If dancing happens, it'll be a couple of songs, but stick to games. So, that's how I present it. I present it with things that they know first, and then I throw things that they have no idea what it is, but they're like, oh my God, that's awesome.
And that Roomba of Doom game is amazing. It's fantastic. It was so fun to see him play it at the closing party. It was a matter of fact, I begged him to play it because I knew it would be great.
I was a wreck because my one fear was I was going to get there, a couple hundred people standing around. I was going to push the button on the Roomba and it wasn't going to work. But it did
then
me
that
solid.
$60 battery should have been a $65 battery if that was the case.
Oh, the
right?
battery was 20. The battery was 20.
Oh, okay.
The Roomba cost me 40, and then I had the T-pins and the hot glue sitting around anyway, so I just put them all together.
I think you could actually enhance that game. Like if you had a room full of 150 people and you built a mega arena and put 3 or 4 Roombas in it, and had it all going around and say had $1,000 prize. Could you imagine the rooting that would be going on? Different colored balloons so people can kind of follow along. If I've got a gold balloon, and I mean, you think about how that game could be expanded. I'll tell you, just doing it the way that Todd told you, with 10 people rooting their butts off to see who's going to win, it gets really exciting. It really does.
Yeah.
So.
And that's one of the things that I think is important to bring into play, because one of the things I did see, so I've got a corporate party coming up. Kind of ran into the same thing. We don't want to do games, but we're going to have our one guy who's going to do their games to give away their TVs and stuff like that they're doing. And I tried to be like, I can help you with this. I've done this before. I know what I'm talking about. No. And he always does this. And I was with them last year. And as I was watching it for 2 minutes, everybody in the room was watching. For the remaining 20, the only people that were paying any attention to what was going on was the 4 contestants and him. Nobody else was paying attention to anything. So I think it's important to with that kind of a game, you've got the opportunity to keep everybody involved, right? Because they're rooting on not just for their own personal gain, the 10 balloons or whatever. They really kind of have a fun with it. And you could go table against table, right? A balloon that represents each table, or something along those lines, to where it you wouldn't have to do 1,000 balloons, but you could broaden the group that comes out ahead.
A presentation and MC skill. I mean, these games are kind of nothing without the ability to excite a crowd, which, some people are watching this, hopefully all the people who watch this are awesome entertainers who kind of get what we're saying here. But these games, as great as they are, put in the wrong hands are going to be boring. So, because they don't know how to create excitement, you got to be able to get a crowd hyped up, get them excited, get them invested in the outcome. The whole thing it's very simple but difficult unless you have that quality.
And I would say practice, don't just go out there cold and be like, okay, I'm going to wing this. Make sure that you practice with friends and family or your youth group or your church group or something prior to taking to a corporate in which you're going to get paid. Practice.
I used to get the kids, local kids. There was when my kids were little, I had a ton of kids around my house, and I'd ask them if they wanted to learn a new game. They always wanted to. And it was such a great.
You're play testers.
Yeah, I was just they would literally test my new games on these groups of kids, and when they're going bonkers over these games, I'm like, well, they want me to keep playing new games. I'm like, this is a great focus group, and that's a great way, great place to do it. My church asked me to do games, and I said, well, if you don't mind, I'd like to play some new ones I've never played before. They want to have a game day. So I tried out a whole bunch of new games on the church. I'm doing this event for free anyway. So I went and I tried out a bunch of new games, and not only that, the Cubbie where you're saying the reason you want to try these things out is you want to test certain lines that you're saying, that you play. You want to test
and the rules. You got to see what rules they're going to break because they will break every rule you have.
Kids, you have to be precise.
Did you explain it correctly? Did you, because sometimes they break the rules because they're jerks, but the other time they break the rules because you didn't explain the game properly.
And kids will find a way around it no matter what. Like they will try to figure out a way to not do what you tell them to do or whatever, but because you didn't explain it clear enough.
Yeah, I had, and then you have to have, if you have a game where that they're going to try to cheat on it, you have to have the answer. That game I showed this year at DJX, I think I told you guys about, where everybody puts their head down and they close their eyes and they open their heads up. Well, I had a group of kids. They're like, everybody look left. And I know people watching this. You have to watch the other one that I was on. But this whole group of kids decided they were going to try to cheat the game. But I was ahead of them, and I had this one kid off to the side. And I said, hey guys, you found a way to beat me. I said, now guess what I'm going to do? And I just brought this one person up. I said, see this is Sarah. If that happens 3 more times in a row, Sarah gets the prize. It stopped immediately. It stopped it immediately. And they went back to playing the game. So you got to have, that's one thing when you do these focus groups, you kind of see, and as you play a game, the more you play it, the more you start to see where there might be a flaw. And it lets you, figure out, well, how do I get around that flaw? So that's great to just, you want to practice these games, practice them in your head, and work on smoothing out all the details so that it comes out really smooth when you're on the microphone.
Yep.
Well, and one of the things we have is we have the curse of knowledge, right? Because we know what we're wanting to happen. So we kind of think if we say the rules a certain way that it's going to be perfect. Like, I don't know how many of you have just like picked up a random board game sometime and read the rules. My family's been going to the library and picking up a bunch of just board games, right? To have family game night. And we're looking down through these rules and we're going, well, what happens if we do this? There's nothing in the rules that explain this scenario, and it very easily could happen. I'm assuming the writers of the game never thought of, like, they know the answer to that, but they never thought they'd have to put in the rules because to them it was an automatic answer.
Yes.
That's
or how about people making up rules like a Monopoly? Every time somebody gets taxed or something, you put it in the middle, and then somebody hits free parking, and they get all that money in the middle of the game. That's not in the rules at all, but people do it all the time.
Absolutely. Listen, we got time for about one more game each. So if you wouldn't mind, kind of one, or if it's too quick. Okay. But we're kind of down to about that point. So like kind of look through your list, pick something out that might be your favorite that you haven't hit on yet.
My favorite of my ones left. So.
All right, perfect. So Jake, we'll start with you since you already got yours.
Okay. This is called Once Upon a Time. So this is a great game if you have an assistant with you. They're going to follow you with a pad, and basically you're going to go to every single person in the room once or twice, depending on how many people. If you got a big party, you're only going to do it once. If you got a smaller party, you can go around 2, even 3 times. But you're going to say once upon a time, and you go to the first person and have them give you a word. And then you go to the next person, they give you a word. And the third person, you literally go around the room and you get everybody to give you a word. And you kind of know you're getting near the end. You might want to prompt them, hey, we're getting near the end. And the end of the story that you add at the end is, and they lived happily ever after. So once it's completely done, now you've got a story. So you say once upon a time, and you read this story that they just created, and you read it all the way to the end, and wherever it stops, and they lived happily ever after. And it's fun because they made up the story themselves. It's a group thing where they were all a part of the dynamic. And when you read it back at the end, sometimes, depending on what they said, it can be downright hilarious.
Question really quick, and I'm sorry, Jake. When you're asking each person a question, are you reading the previous, like once upon a time, and then I read Todd's word, or do you just say, just give me a word?
Well, I
Or
want them to complete that. We're making a story together, and I
okay,
explain
so
it. And
so
they
you're
do it.
so okay, so then you're reading that. So once
Yeah, so
upon
I
a
say once
time,
upon a time, you go to the first person, they might go there, and the next person
okay,
goes, was a
okay.
man who, and they're just kind of figuring out as they go. That's the fun of it, is figuring out where they're going to go with all this. So
But are you
sometimes
repeating
people
it
get,
back? I remember I'm from the Midwest and I'm real slow. Um, are you repeating like, okay, Dan, once upon a time there was a, and then Dan, give me your word.
if they get
Or
if they get lost, I will
okay,
like go back for a second and tell them, because I don't even have to look at the sheet. I'm kind of memorizing it as it's going along.
okay.
So if they get stuck for a second, and I'll say, well, those last 4 words were blah, 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 and then lead them on. But usually, once the game gets going, people get very invested in the story. So they just keep going. And like I said, if you have a small party, if you had a small, say like 30 people, that's a 30-word story. That's not really good. You want to get about 100 words. So, if you've got 100 people, one time through everything is fine. But if you've got 50 people, you might want to go through it twice. You basically do it until you think you've got enough to make a good story.
Awesome.
And the fun is presenting it. And sometimes you don't even present it. You could have the president of the company present it, or the chairman of the party. Sometimes hearing somebody at the company present the story makes it even funnier. So you're taking on this position of, it's a great team building thing because they're all part of it. And it doesn't have to be just corporate events. You could do this at family events and whatnot. But doing at a corporate event, anytime you can make them all feel like they're a part of something, it's better. And sometimes I've actually had them save those stories, and it's a joke between the companies, and sometimes some of the words that people say are so funny, they get they kind of go down in legend. So
I'd
Thank
be
you.
hesitant to Cubby, to your point of reading it back. I think with what Jake was saying, like the last 4 or 5 words, because if you started from the beginning, especially too often,
Yeah, yeah.
that end result that you're
it's
going by
not
having the
funny.
whole story, it's lost because it's now they've already heard kind of
Exactly.
what's going on. So
Okay.
if you give them just a couple words, just to go, okay, was the last word a verb or was it a noun, right? Like they want to know where they need to go to, so that they didn't put 2 words together that wouldn't make
And I'll
sense.
tell you something. Don't I played a game 2 years ago that I regret playing. I played a Mad Lib game with people at DJX, probably the
Oh,
worst game I ever
gotcha.
played at DJX. I found out that our school system has utterly failed us. People did not know what adverbs were, or verbs, or adjectives, or nouns. Todd, you were there.
I was
I
there.
thought this game was going to be hysterical. I called it musical Mad Libs, and it was singing, and people had to put the Mad Lib in there. But people like noun, and they're like saying adjectives like noun slowly. No, no, it's so
Well, that might not be the education system. That might be the history of the DJ realm.
Yeah.
That's a different story for another time.
yeah, but yeah, I so don't ask for nouns, don't ask for adjectives, don't ask for plural nouns or proper names. It will be a disaster.
Thank you for
Scott, how about you?
clarifying.
What have you got for
All
us?
right, I'm going to fire off two quick ones. The first one I'm going to rapid fire. I did it at DJX a couple years ago. It was head, shoulders, knees, toes, cup.
Awesome.
And I changed the cup to a pool noodle. And what I did is I took a pool noodle, I took my saw, and I made just a whole bunch of like 2-3 inch pool noodles, because I found that the cup, when they would grab it a lot, sometimes it would break and they could get cut on their hands. And I use a pool noodle and everything is cool. And it's just like what it says. You call it out: heads, shoulders, knees, toes, shoulders, head, shoulders, knees, whatever. Yell noodle. First person to grab the noodle goes on to the next round, and it's a game of elimination till you get down to one person is a winner. If you have 3 people left, then 3 people just kind of circle up and they all go against each other. So if there's an odd number, that's how you deal with that. The last one I want to talk about, because I got to give credit to where credit is due. Jake actually showed a game, one of the first games to ever really blow me away at any of the expos was the one that you played with the wooden piece of molding,
Yeah,
and you
the
put the
track
ball
attack.
on it. Track attack. Well, I took track attack. I took that idea that Jake gave and I changed it. And what I did is, again, I took a pool noodle and I put it on my bandsaw and I cut it lengthwise in half. So now the pool noodle has a little track in it, and I can play that game with the pool noodle, but also, Cabby, back to you and having your props used for multiple games. I now play a game called Hole in One. I took a party cup, put a little piece of tape on the side so the cup doesn't roll, and that is the golf hole. And then you take the pool noodle with the ping pong ball on it, and people have to roll it down the track. I put it 6 feet away, and they have to roll it into the cup. And now it becomes angle and finesse of the pool noodle. And I have children as young as 5 years old playing this game, and I've had adults as old as, corporate executives playing this game, because of the way I present it. I don't present it the same for both groups. I'll present it as, rolling the ball into the cup for the kids, and I'll call it Hole in One. So if you're a golf fan, you're going to want to play this. And when they come up, they're like, what does this have to do with golf? And I'm like, it has nothing to do with golf, but I got you up here. So that's how I get them to voluntarily come up and play the game. Once they're up there, they have fun playing it. So that's the last game I have for tonight is Hole in One. Yeah, Cabby.
Top of ball to use, is it ping pong because of lightweight, or do you use a golf ball for
Ping
it?
pong, yeah.
Okay,
I play a lot of games with ping pong balls, from a simple bouncing a ball into a 2-quart bucket to games like that, to games where they're hitting the ball back and forth. Ping pong balls and party cups are 2 of my absolute must-have in any game kit that I have together.
And big dice.
And big dice. I didn't even touch
We didn't even go. We didn't touch big dice. I'm telling you, you don't have enough time. If we were sitting here till 6 o'clock tomorrow morning time,
no, this is awesome. You guys are geniuses. Oh my gosh.
We are unfortunately
can be fantastic at them too. They're so fun.
No, we are unfortunate at the end here tonight, but one of the things that I'm gonna suggest to John is maybe we can figure out a way to get some of these ideas on a more regular basis. Maybe have you guys back every so many months, because going into the summer, you're gonna have some backyard barbecues or class reunions where, again, dancing is not necessarily going to happen, and so this gives another way to open up some of those doors and talk. So I'll see what John's willing to do, and we'll kind of play it by ear from there. Real quick here, a couple things, and then we're going to kind of end it up. I do want to remind everybody, head on over to djntv.com/chill. That is where you're going to find the guys and gals as part of the music show with the DJN crew. That is going to be coming up at 10 o'clock. You go, you hang out, and then when they're all said and done with the recording, then you can just hang out and enjoy yourself. Tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, we have on the Big Daddy Show will be Chris Hines of Pinnacle Productions. Going to be on with him. And then at 9:30, connecting gear to my controller and stocking stuffers on the Tuesday night with Ben Stowe. 9 o'clock on Wednesday, David Hanscom at DJ Flipside and Color Key will be on the Marquee Show podcast with Casey Kokoris. And then 10 o'clock, the djntv.com/chill, the chill room shows, they are going to be rebroadcast then for you to check that out. Again, that's Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So that's the stuff that's coming up. Real quick here, gentlemen, easiest way for anybody to ask further questions. Todd.
Facebook. Yeah, just Facebook me. If you haven't friended me, go ahead and friend me, or you can email me at todd@partywithtodd.com.
And his group, Party Games with Todd, the website, partygameswithtodd.com. Jake.
Venmo at Jake. Again, find me on Facebook. It says Daryl Jake Jacobsen on Facebook. My company's A2R Entertainment. So my email is Jake at the letter A, the number 2, the letter R, the word entertainment, Jake at A2Rentertainment.com. I'm at A2R Entertainment on Instagram. So those are the best ways. And like Todd, I'm always happy to help people. Feel free to ask your questions. I'll get back to you.
My apologies to those over in the chill room. Hopefully they're not mad that we went a little bit over. I appreciate everybody for checking us out tonight. Hopefully you got ideas. If you didn't, go back and watch the show again, because there was a ton of them in there, and getting you ready for all of those fun games, whether they're family, whether they're for your church, or whether they're for those corporate parties. You can have a lot of great time with some games tonight. Thank you very much, everybody, and we will catch you